On the takeoff roll from our right.
Yeah, last year we were earlier before we were here.
All right, we've got the Harvard out of the way, and we're going to go back to the 1940s and launch the Harvard 1. Down in the States was known as the T6, in the United States Navy known as the SNJ. Up here in Canada, of course, we knew it as the Harvard. Also distinctly painted in those yellow colors. So many Canadian pilots trained in the Harvard. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. But first, we're going to taxi out a great big dump truck with wings. This is, of course, the A1 Skyraider, also nicknamed the SPAD. Alan Anders is at the controls of that plane from the Heritage Flight Museum, located at the Skagit Airport, I believe. And behind there, it looks, Roy, we've got what, a Supermarine Spitfire?
I think you're absolutely correct. And a P-51D Mustang is taxiing out.
All very cool airplanes.
Wicked.
As well as that last one.
Well, that's not that. It's a rare machine right there.
That's Bearcat.
Yeah.
One of the classic Grumman designed and built airplanes.
Yep. Overbuilt airplanes.
Overbuilt. They built it around the engine. It was all about power back then.
That's right.
And while we're waiting for their takeoff clearance, give a wave to the folks on Air Canada Rouge. Welcome them to the Fraser Valley. What a great way to come into
They found a way to skip traffic to the air show. They did.
Absolutely delighted that it got delayed.
Take the plane.
How many times can you say that?
No kidding. There goes the Skyraider.
Followed by the Spitfire. Last but hardly least, the Bearcat. This time I'd like to welcome to our microphone here, or to the announcer stage, Dan Blanchard from Historic Flight Foundation. Welcome. How's your day going so far?
So far it's going great, Ken. Thanks
Awesome.
for having me again.
I understand that we've got a number of aircraft from Historic Flight Foundation in our Warbird flight today. So as they come around, we'll get you to tell us a little bit more about each of those airplanes. What have we got that does actually belong to the museum here?
Well, the ones flying right now, the Spitfire Mark 9 and the Bearcat, belong to Historic Flight Foundation.
All right. I think first, we've got some Harvards.
I think so. Coming in from the right, the classic sound.
Well, that was a shock, yeah. It was an airplane.
Now, you didn't think you'd hear any sonic boots here today, did you? Well, you're hearing them right now. That rapping sound is actually the propeller tips breaking the sound barrier. And that's why they're sometimes called windbreakers at times, because they were so loud they rattled the windows. Of course, right across Canada, you hear these airplanes, see these airplanes, training pilots ready for World War II battle in Europe and Asia.
And of course, when pilots who fly Harvards have the chance to show that off, they'll adjust the pitch of the propeller just a little bit to get maximum snap.
It's an air show.
That's right.
Max noise.
In the lead of our Harvard flight today is Bill Fidley. And on his wing is George Curbison. Got out of the Beach Stagger wing and jumped into his Harvard. I believe that belongs to the Canadian Museum of Flight. He'll be on the right wing there. I think they're going to be doing a couple of different formations here. And in between, we'll bring some of the muscle machines, including that Skyraider and Spitfire and so on. You can see them joining up there towards the south. That's straight out across the runway. Looks like Alan Anders is going to lead that flight. His brother Greg Anders is going to be at the controls of the P-51D Mustang. John Sessions at the controls of the F-8F Bearcat. And Carter Teeters is going to be flying the Spitfire.
Whitney R1340 AM1 Wasp engine. A lot of airplanes were powered by that engine. 550 horsepower, flying that very large and heavy aircraft in the sky. At a range of about 750 miles. Cruises about 170 miles per hour. Max speed 205 miles per hour, and it'll climb to about 21,000 feet.
All right, folks, if you look to your right, you'll see that the heavy machinery is now coming in with the A1 Skyraider in the lead. I believe we've got the D Mustang on the right wing, the Spitfire on the left, and the Bearcat in the slot position. Let's listen to this. Spitfire, that's the aircraft that is closest to us with unique insignia on it.
Yeah, that insignia is for the Czechoslovakian Air Force, and that's what they did back in World War II.
Talk to us a little bit about the characteristics of the Spitfire. It is a well-known, famous fighter jet that came in, or fighter aircraft that came in a little bit later in the war effort.
The Spitfire actually was produced in 1936, well before the war, and then it did come in the war, and it was a very good fighter. It's lightweight, it has that elliptical wing design, very thin, just basically thick enough to hold the landing gear when it gets tucked up inside.
And of course, Canadian pilots would have started on the Harvard, and then they would have graduated up to the Supermarine Spitfire, as we see the Harvard 25.
This very large, very complicated machine, and maybe gone on to the Spitfire, or the Mustang, or the Hurricane, or Typhoon.
So how many of the Spitfires were actually produced there, Dan?
There was over 20,000 of those produced between 1938 and 1948.
Of course, an aircraft that was well loved by the pilots that flew them.
It was a very successful aircraft during the war.
Our diamond formation of warbirds coming in from the right. Once again, the A1 Skyraider in the lead. The Spitfire is closest to us on the left wing. P-51D Mustang on the right, and the Bearcat in the slot. Talk to us a little bit more about the Bearcat.
Yeah, this Bearcat, nicknamed Rumpus Cat, it's a little bit interesting that it's trailing there because it is a very, very highly powered aircraft. It held the time to climb record, 91 seconds to 10,000 feet, held that record well into the jet age. So if you look at the size of that engine compared to the size of the airframe, you can see the difference there and why it has so much power and that kind of maneuverability.
That kind of power is a great aircraft. In fact, this one actually raced at the National Championship Air Races in Greenville, I believe.
That is correct, it did. And the top speed of this aircraft is about 455 miles an hour.
That's pretty fast. All right, gentlemen, it looks like our Harvards have split up.